our guest today. And I was just speaking with him. His extensive bio and the work that he has done is incredible. And I can't state that enough about how much he has brought to not only the world of finance for everybody in North America and abroad, but especially to Muslims who seek an option away from the traditional financing world. And he has been a leading pioneer. Dr. Yahya was born in Cairo, Egypt, and immigrated to the United States in 1968. He studied chemical engineering and had a PhD from the University of Wisconsin, and also in international finance and monetary theory. His most world-acclaimed book is The Art of Islamic Banking and Finance. The book was an Amazon.com bestseller. The book presents pioneering research results about many topics, including the real added value of riba-free, interest-free banking and finance. It includes chapters on prohibition of riba in all Abrahamic faiths, the early warning discipline of detecting price bubbles, and many other hands-on practical operating experience. He is the founder and CEO of the Bank of Whittier Riba Free, 2003. He was a member of the team that started the Industrial Bank of Kuwait. His group has also started banks in Houston, Texas, La Riba Bank of Kazakhstan, Bank of Whittier, La Riba Egypt 2004, and La Riba Bank of Whittier 2003. Dr. Yahya is known as the father of Islamic banking in North America. And under La Riba, under Dr. Yahya's leadership, was the first company ever in the United States to operate riba-free, an American full-service riba-free, interest-free bank, national bank. Dr. Yahya is a distinguished community leader in North America since 1968. He participated in the startup and operation of many community centers and schools in the United States and Canada. He was an invited Jummah speaker in most US cities, in Canada, India, Singapore, South Africa, Switzerland, Thailand, Turkey, and the United Kingdom. And that is only a short version of everything Dr. Yahya has done. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yahya, and welcome to the Muslim Educations Program.
Alaikum salam. So I need to share the presentation, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Let me see where to share. I think it's the green thumb.
Yes.
Here. Yeah. So, this is a presentation, and I'm going to go quickly with the presentation, and this is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I want to share with you our experience in general in riba-free economics, banking, finance, and monetary policy. And I call this the American experience because it was a very interesting story that lasted over 40 years. I remember when I came to the United States, I came with a small little book called Banuk Bila Fawaid, which means banks with no interest, which was authored by a professor at the Faculty of Business in Ain Shams University. His name is Dr. Isa Abdo. Dr. Isa Abdo is the son of a revert, Copt, and his father called him Isa and Abdu, Isa, the worshipper. And so he wrote that very thin book, and it really excited me, but I didn't know what to do with it until I finished my education in Wisconsin and went to work in Dallas, Texas in 1971, November. And I don't like a Jumu'ah pass without praying Jumu'ah. So I'm used to calling from the time was a Yellow Pages. I looked for Mr. Khan because 99% Mr. Khan will know where the masjid is. And Mr. Khan told me, his name is Amanullah Khan. He's still alive. May Allah give him long life. He told me that, well, we don't do Jumu'ah because there's discrimination here and there is difficulty. And we prayed the Jumu'ah prayer for the first time in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in November, Thanksgiving weekend, Friday, 26th of November, 1971. And the participants were two, a brother who died, rahimahullah, Ghulam Hussein Siddiqui, and myself. And we started the Islamic Association of North Texas. And make a story short, we bought a piece of land, 2 acres with a house on it for $35,000. We only had 17 in the bank, 17,000. And then people who got used to buying their cars at the banks, they said, just go to the bank, they will give you $17,000. And that was the beginning of a journey. We call it the riba-free journey, where the community said, no, we cannot finance a masjid with riba. And then that motivated me to start studying in depth riba. And since 1971 until today, I am a student of riba. My email is on the screen. And if interested, I'll be glad to give you also my cell phone number. We've had a number of excursions in this experience. The first one in 1987, 34 years ago. We've been there for a long time. And that is through the flagship of what we did called La Riba. And I remember when we started registering the company, we went to the Department of Corporations and they said, what's the meaning of La Riba? And we were afraid that somebody might be not very happy with Islamic banking. So we called it LA, which is Los Angeles. R is reliable, I is investment, B is bankers, and A is associates. And that was the beginning. And alhamdulillah, today we have a full service, the first and only full service, riba-free national bank in the history of the United States. We bought it in 1998. We manage a portfolio between La Riba and Bank of Whittier. We manage a portfolio of home mortgages of about $580, $600 million by the grace of Allah. In 1993, we started a La Riba bank in Kazakhstan, and it was the first ever Islamic bank that does mortgages in Kazakhstan. And we stayed until 2006 when they asked us to increase the capital to $100 million. And I told them, I'm a poor man, I don't have $100 million to increase the capital. So we sold it. Now it's a flourishing bank owned by a Russian group in Kazakhstan. In Egypt, we started in 2004, La Riba. And in 2010, there were some political instabilities. So we froze its operations, returned the money to the shareholders with a good profit. And we've decided to focus on the United States. The operations, we are an internet operation. So we serve all 50 states. We have a full service, riba-free banking services anchored in 2 branches, one in Dallas, Texas, and one in Los Angeles, California. We have a very sophisticated website. We have a core processor at the bank, the same core processor of Bank of America. And we also have an app, and I'll tell you more about that. On the left-hand side, you see our operation in California. On the 4th floor, we have La Riba, and on the ground floor, we have Bank of Whittier. In Dallas, Texas, we have a standalone building in Richardson, Texas. This is a picture of our promotion for the app. Same bells and whistles you get at Citi and Chase and Bank of America, and we are fully riba free. The big question that we faced in our practice, not only in the United States, but all over the world, is how and what to call it. From my dealings with non-Muslims, and I'm very interested in dealing with non-Muslims because we want to invite them to know what Islam is all about. And we use this in our mission as a tool of da'wah, as a window of da'wah to take a look at the Muslims when they interact, when they deal and what kind of ethics and behavior they have. And then we faced a lot of difficulties. Like, for instance, if you are in a Buddhist country and you call yourself Islamic, then you get to be excluded. Say, well, oh, this is for the Muslims. Same thing with the Jewish, Christian, Islamic, or Hindu. So in addition to the fact that there are a lot of political ramifications, a lot of governments not necessarily have Islamophobic problems, but they just don't want to involve, the religion into their social fabric. Then we decided to really neutralize it by calling it what it is. And there are so many names that were given to Islamic banking because of this. In India, I spoke at the parliament about 12, 15 years ago, and they call it participatory banking. And they invited me in the parliament in India, in New Delhi, to share with them the American experience. And they call it participatory banking. They call it ethical banking in some countries, finance houses in Turkey because of Baitul Mal. They call it also insani in Turkey, responsible finance, or riba free. And we decided to start a branding campaign. And we started the name Riba Free. As a matter of fact, we started it about 20 years ago. Now, by the grace of Allah, everybody working in Islamic banking is working with the name brand Riba Free. And the reason for that is our mission is to use the discipline of the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, discipline of the Holy Quran, to use it as another banking discipline. And when people ask, we can share with them the details of it. So RF banking and finance is an alternative preferred banking and finance discipline. We express our religion and our faith in the way we deal with our customers. We do not rub it in, we do not wear it on our sleeves, and we do not rent money. We invest with our customers. And there is a great difference between renting money and investing in our customers. So we call it now there is a new effort that we are going through, an effort of branding it as RF banking. And RF banking is a discipline. RF stands for riba free in the Islamic faith, ribit free in the Old Testament and the New Testament, ribit, and responsible finance for those who do not care to associate it with religion. But we brand it RF banking. We've been doing it since 2011, 2010. It's now gelling and getting to be used by many, alhamdulillah. Who are we? We are a movement. Our movement is very simple-minded, and that is to use finance, monetary policy, and banking as a tool, as a distinct discipline to create the person who we call the RF banker, who will be the choice of people to go to when they look for an honest, good, and efficient banker. And we serve people of all faith without riba. So we designed our systems not only to deal with the Muslims, we designed our systems to deal with the world. And in the Quran, the world called al-Nas, the people, and not only the Muslims, not the mu'mins. We just want to deal with everybody, and we want to apply this accordingly. So we have proven over the years, especially in 2008, that the discipline works and the discipline is efficient. And as a matter of fact, the regulators, they examined us now 16 times over 16 years. And they know about my book. We gave them copies of the book. We don't hide anything. We share with them the discipline. And in the last 2 examinations, they wrote down in the records of the Department of Treasury of the United States that the reason for the stellar performance of this bank has been their riba-free discipline. And I remember tears came out of my eyes when this was written for the first time. And they asked me why. I said, now I can die and say, Alhamdulillah, we have made the discipline of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stick and work. We have a unique system, and by grace of Allah, we think it is superior, and in managing assets and to bank. The 2008 did not touch us, did not hurt us. And I remember the chief editor of Time magazine has been following us, and she called me and said, hey, Dr. Rahman, well, what have we done lately? I said, nothing. She did not believe me. I shared the numbers with her. Insurance company came to ask us, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac asked us, what is the secret? We told them that the secret is very simple. We follow the discipline of riba free. We want to create a new kind of banker, and I think we have created at least 30 to 50 of them, and we follow the wonderful story of Prophet Joseph when Pharaoh wanted to reward him for his patience in the jail and for his honesty, for not betraying him with his wife. And he said, he did not say, I want to be the leader. He did not say, I want to be the president. He said, اجعلني على خزائن الأرض إني حفيظ عليم. Make me in today's lingo, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Egypt at that time. Now, we also wanted to share with the public a simple and easy to understand definition of what riba is. And we define riba as the act of renting money at a price called interest rate. And money is fungible. Fungible means it changes its nature when it's used, because the dollar of 1971, it looks the same essentially as the dollar of today, but its value is completely different. If you actually had $100,000 loan from someone, Qard Hasan, no interest, nothing. And you say, well, my brother, I do not want to pay you back in dollars, but let me find out how many ounces of gold it will buy in 1971 when I took the money. It turns out to be about 2,800 ounces of gold. And I'm going to pay you back in the year 2021. Now, you multiply 2,800 by $1,750, which is the price of gold today, you come up with a lot of millions of dollars. Please try this number out. So money is fungible. You cannot rent it, but you can rent homes, you can rent businesses, you can rent cars, and so on. And that's why, it is important to call it participatory banking or participation in profit and loss. The methodology we used is built on the character and the methodology of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first rule was to start from the possible to achieve the impossible. You cannot reach perfection overnight. It takes time. And gradualism is much more lasting than step function or step changes. It took us 15 years, took Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 15 years to reveal the ultimate prohibition of alcohol. The products should compete. The most important thing in what we do is to let people know and feel and touch the real added value of riba-free financing. It's not a matter, it's a contract. It's not a matter, it's name. It's not a matter of changing things. It's a matter of what is the added value. Why am I doing this? What's the wisdom of riba-free lifestyle as detailed in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
Mm-hmm.
Products must be designed for all people. Products must be easy to understand and free of ruses. And a ruse is called the hila, or a circumvention, so people can get around and make it look Islamic. And we follow the hadith of the Prophet. If you want to calibrate value in the market, you cannot calibrate it with a fungible thing, that is a dollar or even bitcoins or a dinar or a rupee, because these are all paper money. We call it fiat money, but you have to follow a discipline by which you can actually define value, a discipline that calibrates value. For instance, if you ask me how tall I am, I'll tell you I'm 5'10". Well, what's a foot? A foot is a calibration that calibrates your height. It says that I am 5 times, because I'm 5 foot, 5 times as big or as tall as the length of a standard piece of platinum sitting in the London Museum of Measurements, and we call that a foot. It's just a measuring device. The same token, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the 6 measuring devices at his time were 2 precious metals, gold and silver. Of course, nowadays we have a matrix of precious metals, and 4 food staples, and we have 4 at that time. Now we have much more. Different communities eat different things. Like at the time, it was wheat and barley. Now it is maize, it is corn, depending where you live. And these are the measuring devices. This is a translation of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. I call it the commodity indexation rule for calibrating value in the market. And I want to go quickly for oil prices. This is the history of oil prices, fluctuating between, at the time, $2.50 in 1968, and then up to $135 in 2008, and then down to $30, and then up again to $60. When we did that in gold, we said, instead of doing it in dollars, let's do it in gold and see what happens. So we know the price of gold in dollars, and we know the price of oil in dollars. So we decided to take the dollars out and asked, how many ounces of gold buys a barrel of oil? Or how many barrels of oil you can buy for an ounce of gold? And this chart shows you that it doesn't go up all the time, but it is cyclical, fluctuates, because somebody behind the curtain, behind the screen, is actually adjusting the prices of gold, because the gold is still an important measuring devices. Somebody asked me, well, what about Bitcoins? Well, Bitcoins are not a calibration. It's another medium. You call it Bitcoin. It's like the dinar, so on and so forth. The problem with the Bitcoin is it is an uncontrolled entity. You cannot manage it. You do not know how much it's supply, and you don't know how much it's demand. So it's still in limbo until regulations are developed to adjust its size. This is the price of rice in the market, up and down, as you can see. This is the price of rice in gold. And look at what happened, a precipitous decline in the value of rice in the market because of the increased production and because of the subsidy that is happening with rice. And that's why many farmers don't want to be in rice anymore or any agriculture anymore. And you compare rice, an edible, basic material, staple food, to wheat, you'll find that the ratio is almost constant. This is the price of homes in the United States, up, up, and then down, and up, up, and a little down, and up, up. And you can see when you do it in gold, how many ounces of gold buy a house. And you can see that back in 1968, 72, it required a lot of ounces of gold. Now it required less in 1980, and then up and down. And now the green zone here shows you that there is actually a bubble. That little hump here on the top, that shows a bubble. And that's how we actually discovered in 2006 that there is a bubble forming and peaking, and that's why we instructed our underwriters to be extra careful, and we advise many of our customers to back off and not to do home buying at that time. This is natural gas prices. So we have a simple system, does not involve renting money, strictly based on the law, Judeo-Christian Islamic law. And we also coined a new terminology, which is repeated in my books, called the Judeo-Christian Islamic law, and that's called Sharia, despite the fact some have sensitivity about the word Sharia. It offers a true economic added value, and it benefits from bank regulations in the United States and experience worldwide. We have a model which is based on what we call Bay'ul Istithna. This is the sale of title with the exception of usufruct. And it's based on a well-known story. The Prophet ﷺ sold his camel to someone and he signed the sales agreement, but in it, it says, with the exception of using the camel for my transportation from the spot of sale to my home. And then at that time, a new form of sales was pioneered by the Prophet called Bay'ul Istithna, selling with the exception of usufruct. And that's the model that we use. And every non-fungible item in the market, like a home, when you buy a home, it doesn't change its nature upon use. Maybe you need to be maintained and so on. Then this is non-fungible. A car is non-fungible. It has two rights. The right to own it, which is a title. We call it milkul raqaba, the ownership of the neck. That means your title. And the right to use it, and that is haqqul manfa'a. And so what we do, we buy together with the customer, and then we sell the customer upon his request, out of his free will. We sell him back the title. Then he is on the title with the exception of the utility or the use of that property. And as he pays back the price for paying us back, then the distribution of the rent is actually distributed among us. But then the question is, how do you figure out the rent? Well, you call those who are involved in Islamic financing, they tell you 3.5%. Brother, the rent is 3.5%. The rent is 4%. Well, we ask them when we train our staff, our associates, how did you figure out that the rent is 3% or 4% or 5%? Well, actually, the rent of money is what you're talking about. But the way we do it, we ask our customer on his own or her own, independently, to go to the market and get 3 estimates of how much a similar home in the same neighborhood rent for in dollars per square foot. And we, our finance officer, gets 3 estimates. Then we have 6 data points. And based on the 6 data points, we come up with an average rent divided by 6, add them up, divided by 6, that gives you the average rent. And here's how we do it. On the left-hand side here, on the left-hand side, you will find that we have the conventional way. The conventional way we all know. They rent money. You go to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or the bank that you go to. They say, well, I want $500,000 to buy a house. They tell you, we're going to rent you $500,000 in the form of a loan at an interest rate of 4% for 30 years. And we calculate the monthly payments using a program called an amortization program. And what we do exactly the opposite. This is what we do. And I'm trying to move this here. Now, this is the riba-free model. In the riba-free model, we invest $500,000 for 30 years. And we know from the market study, the live market study, how much the monthly rent is. And we calculate a percentage sign, which is called the rate of return on investment, because it is actually an investment, not a rental of money. Now, if the rate of return on investment is good, 10%, 8%, 7%, we tell the customer, Mr. Customer, brother, sister, you have picked up a property which makes economic sense. We're going to invest with you. If it doesn't, if the rate of return is 1%, then we tell brother or sister, this is an overpriced property, back off. There's a third option where the rate is very marginal, like let's say 4% or 3.5%. We tell the customer, we think that you can go back and renegotiate the price and reduce it by 20,000, 50,000, and so on and so forth. So this is essentially what we have in our model. And I'm trying to reduce the screen. Here. Okay, I'm going to go quickly because time is not on our side. I just want to share with you some of the challenges. The first challenge is the resorting of some models to use ruses. And in doing so, they go through very sophisticated structures. Some models say, well, we're going to start an offshore company. We don't know why, offshore company that we own. And that offshore company will have a partnership with you. Then that offshore company partnership will buy the property. And after they buy the property, they pledge everything back to us. And then the same thing happens. And we have done a very detailed analysis, legal analysis of the contracts and so on. And our lawyers were laughing, saying that this actually is just a circumvention and it's a ruse. We need what if you ask me what we need, we've done all of this, fantastic, but we're still working with some fungible asset, fungible medium of exchange, which is the dollar. We need to have a central bank, which is actually a riba-free central bank. And in other words, we're going to talk about this in our question and answer sessions. That's essentially what I say. Can we develop a competitive sukuk and a competitive system? Yes, we can. And this is a list of the books that we have published. And the last one actually is a translation of my book that was published a book in 1994, which is called La Riba Bank. It's a small little 120 pages, essentially after a very well-known book called Al-Bunuk Al-La-Ribawiyya fil Islam, or Al-Bank Al-La-Ribawi fil Islam, by a very, very well-known scholar. And then in 2010, this book actually is the book that Brother Jawad has mentioned. And then in 2014, 2010, we actually sold about 12,000 copies of it in 2 printings. And then he asked me to do a textbook, which is now taught in South Africa and in Kazakhstan. And it's used as a reference in many major campuses around the United States. And it is translated into Turkish. I have it translated in Arabic, but it's not very fashionable nowadays to publish books on Islamic banking and finance in the Arabic language. So it's sitting in my drawer. We do not rent money, we invest in you. We answer to a higher authority. We are out for a mission, and we invite people to live riba free. It's a lifestyle that tells us, teaches us, disciplines us not to evaluate people based on how expensive a car they drive, how expensive a designer shoe, the designer jeans they have. We evaluate people based on who they are. We live within our means. We pay our taxes. We respect the law. We are the citizens that will change the world, inshallah, through our children and grandchildren. This is my cell phone number, and this is my email address. and I will be at your service. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. May Allah accept Ramadan Kareem to all of you. And I just want to tell you, it's a great pleasure to be here. And thanks for Brother Shawad and Sister Vera and Brother Blake and our dear brother Wajdi Ghulim. May Allah bless you and bless your families and accept our fasting and Ramadan Kareem. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Yahya. And the honor is ours to host you here this Ramadan Saturday for us. Dr. Yahya, I had a question, and this is often a question that people who are Muslim or who are not Muslim, they often ask, is that we know that there are Quranic injunctions, verses in the Quran that prohibit the eating and the using and indulging in riba. But a lot of people don't understand the reason for that prohibition. And many people also don't understand, as you mentioned, as you hinted at in your presentation, that these prohibitions against riba usury is not just an Islamic concept, but has been present in the past in many other faiths and cultures. You've spoken some of your lectures very eloquently about it. And I know we don't have the most time, but could you elaborate on that for our audience? We know that riba is prohibited in Islam specifically, but what is the reason for that? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not want us to use riba and wants us to use a different format, the way that La Riba Bank promotes for customers?
Because if you apply a real riba-free system, then you will allow the economy to flourish. As a matter of fact, with the pandemic, we live in an interest-free society. We do not actually have an interest rate. So the profit is transactional profit, not profit based on the rental of money. So the problem is with money is it is very arbitrary in value. And that value actually can make you lose your assets or lose a potential of gaining a higher return. As I said, money is fungible. The value of money changes because it keeps to be debased. What is debased? Debased means it keeps to be toyed with. Instead of money worth $35 an ounce, the dollar then bought 35 of it, bought 1 ounce of gold. Now the same name called dollar you have to only have 1,750 of it to buy gold. So you cannot transact in it this way, and it has to be a fair trade. And an example I mentioned to you, $100,000 loan, right? Qard Hasan, no interest whatsoever. If you want to pay it back, you can pay it as 100,000 or as a $4 million at today's dollars. So the idea here is to encourage investing, because the Quran says, وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَها فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَبَشِّرْهُم بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Those who do not invest their assets and they keep amassing it, gold and silver and other assets, and they don't invest it. Why investing it? Because when you invest, you generate economic activity, you generate job opportunities, you generate economic prosperity, and everybody rises in that wonderful tide of investment. Instead of just money making money, so the rich will get richer and the poor getting poorer, which is happening in many societies. I'd like to hear Blake. I spoke so much about.
Yeah, thank you. I was have another question about that, about some about the history that you explained, and whether there was resistance initially or over time, and how and did people worry that there wouldn't be market acceptance, and how did you respond?
The history of, I didn't hear.
Oh, the history of setting up the bank. Was there resistance? Did people feel that there wouldn't be a market for it?
Well, that's a great question. When we started, it was very difficult because, you know, Muslims have been through some difficult times. They lost their properties, they lost their lands. They have been really, I wouldn't say mistreated, but they went through some difficult times. So they lost trust, not only in everything, but in each other. So it was very, very difficult to at least invite people to participate in gathering capital. I went to my rich friends and I said, I said, get away from me. If you want a donation for the masjid, I'll give you a donation for the masjid. But I don't want to get into this thing and get into fights and stuff like that. So we went to the middle income people like us, who collected 5,000, 10,000. We raised $200,000 by the grace of Allah. And everybody was laughing at us. Everybody was saying, it's the same thing. They're just changing names. You're just changing things. You guys are using religion to collect. We went through all of this, right? But the advice I want to give the young people who are now much more persistent on riba-free financing. I get young men and women getting married. Their wife would insist to make it riba-free. We did a study. It's not a secret. About 85% of those who insist on riba-free financing are not the Arabic-speaking people. I don't know if Wajdi is listening or not, but it's not the Arabic-speaking people. It is the people from South Asia, people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, what used to be India in the past. And then we did a study. We did a study and we asked, why are you so keen about this? So the study, here's the amazing result of the study. They said 95%. Our mother, who said, what? Our mother taught us, number one, to read the Quran cover to cover. Remember, anybody from that area will tell you what's the meaning of Bismillah. Bismillah means when mom gets a baby and he's 4 or she's 4 years old, they would bring in a Quranic teacher and they teach him the Fatiha, and that's called Bismillah. They have a big walima, big dinner, and they promise the community that their son or their daughter will finish the recitation of the Holy Quran. In 2 years' time, that son or daughter will finish reading the Quran from cover to cover. And the second thing about the Quran is the prestigious thing in a family is not to own a Mercedes, is not to get straight A's, but it is become a Hafiz of Quran. Am I correct, Jawad? Am I correct?
You are very correct in multiple ways, Dr.
It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. And I actually am amazed. And then they have this Bismillah and everything. I want to, unfortunately, we don't have too many in the audience, but I want to recommend to the mothers, I hope Alvina was here, to the mothers to please take this as an example to raise your kids. Number 2, always deal with the community. Buy from the community, sell with the community, do business with the community. When we were raising funds for the Islamic Center of Orange County, Dr. Muzammil Siddiqi's operation, our dream was to convert the whole street into a Muslim street. And we did. We bought stores and we did things and stuff like that. But then nobody bought. Today, the whole street and the whole area now is Vietnamese. And the Muslims are a minority around the masjid. And the only things left were a small restaurant and a small fabric store. That's what's left because we do not support each other. We try to squeeze each other so we can be clever with each other. The third thing that their mother said, always eat halal meat. And that's why the Nabiha meat is a very important part of the culture in South Asia, halal meat. And number 5 was never participate in riba. And that's called suht. Actually, it comes from the word suht. S-U-H-T in the Holy Quran. That is the reason why, the people that supported this, I call them the Puritans, come from South Asia. And alhamdulillah, now we have come a long way. Not only that people are trusting each other, not only that people are financing with Islamic banking, Islamic finance, or riba-free finance, but also we have depositors who are doing riba-free deposits and depositors who are actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but I give you some good news. Bank of America, 2 weeks ago, they bought 4.9% minority ownership of our bank in recognition for our discipline and our reputation and the way we have, by the grace of Allah.
It's a incredible evolution of when you started with that story from 1970 and the recognition of it and
I
the
was started in
value.
1987.
1987.
Exactly.
I was speaking about your journey, Dr. Yahya,
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
beginning stages when you were asking in the beginning. We just had
Dr.
Brother
Yahya,
Watson?
I mean, yeah,
There you go.
we have a young businessman here, a great successful entrepreneur. His name Rashad Kazemi. He's an Afghan
Brother
American,
Shad.
and he would like to ask you a question, Dr. Yahya, if you don't mind.
Fadal, Brother Shad.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yahya. Thank you
Alaikum
for the
salam.
presentation. The question I had was in regards to the concept of participating finance and co-investing and how that works with a depreciating asset, such as a vehicle, in terms of Islamic banking.
Well, the unique thing about our model is that you own the title, you own the property. So your depreciation will be for your account because you own title of ownership. You understand me? And that is the uniqueness of Bay'ul Istithna. The only thing that changes is the percentages of distribution of the income generated from the rent. You understand, Brother Rashad?
Yes.
Yeah. So maintenance is going to be yours. You know, I encourage you to review some of these contracts. If your name is with another company's name on the title, they have the right to do things for you or on your behalf to keep the house, because it's co-ownership, in good shape. But now the house is yours. The title is in your name only using our model. And that allows us to go through a lot of states, allows us to go through a lot of ease and relationship. And the most important thing is, God forbid, when you are in a lawsuit, when you are in a regulatory function, you do not have to explain what's this and what's that, because what we do, we present it in a format that everybody understands. And I always use the metaphor of two whole chicken on the table. And I tell you, Brother Rashad, this chicken is halal, this chicken is not halal. So you'll tell me, get out of here, Dr. Yahya, you know, they look the same. Yeah, they look the same by design. But, which by design means by recipe. But the chicken that I call halal went through a lot of things that are different in the background, behind the scene. The way it was fed, the way it was raised, the way it was slaughtered, the way it was cleaned, and the way it was cooked, according to a certain discipline. You see what I'm talking about, Rashad?
Yes. While I have you, just a second question in regards to a mortgage. What happens, let's say, when the person who you're getting the mortgage for, they pass away? Does it get passed on to their children?
Yes, they own the title. They own the title. It passes on to their children. Yeah, as long as they make the payments of the participation rent. The big question is, suppose the children cannot make the payments. And what we do, and we've done it many times, we have had in cars and stuff like that. When this thing happens, we have a fund called the Miskeen Fund. Any unintended income due to something which we think is riba. And by the way, we are the only institute in America that does an independent Sharia audit every year, and we publish it on our website every year. And they don't only look at the model, and no, they go through every transaction we do, like any other auditor. They go through our files. We say we've done so many, like 500 files. They take a percentage and they pick up the names, and we give them the files to investigate it to make sure it is done according to the Sharia. But we have a miskin fund, like somebody lost his job, somebody lost his father, and he cannot make the payments. Then we call him up on the phone and say, "What can you afford?" They say, "Well, we're paying 1,500. Can we get by 500?" So no problem. We'll help you from that fund for 3 months. After 3 months, if they cannot, we'll help them again until if cannot do anything about it, then they can sell the house, and the profit is their profit because the title is their title. That's the advantage of our model.
Thank you.
Any questions?
So, in addition to what you just explained in terms of having the fund available to support people in a difficult situation, and the main structure of the financing, what other evolution has there been over the years in how you've done your business operations to support the community? You mentioned that helping encourage that the supporting of one another was very important for communities to thrive. What other ways have you found to do that?
Well, I, I've been in this country for 52 years, and I had the honor and the privilege, wallahi, from Allah, to travel the United States, Canada, doing Islamic centers and schools on the weekends. On my own, I paid for it, and with donations. I didn't charge anybody for anything, by the grace of Allah. And the barakah is coming, alhamdulillah. I always came home to my wife on a Sunday after all of this, and I say, you know, honey, if we can have an institution that can accumulate the savings of the community and then invest it in a masjid or in a school or in a business, then we can get the community to grow and prosper. And I thank Allah before I die. I thank Allah that we have that institution. We have financed a large number of Islamic centers around the country, from north to south to east to west. Well, people say, why don't you advertise for it? We do not advertise for it. We want this to be in our mizan on the Day of Judgment. We finance a lot of schools around the country, and we know that. If you live in Dallas, Texas, and you eat bagel shops, Einstein Bagel, we finance all the bagel shops in the Dallas, Texas area. Finance a lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken. If you eat halal Kentucky Fried Chicken, there's an 80% chance we finance the halal Kentucky Fried Chicken store, and on and on and on, by the grace of Allah. So there's so many ways you can help. And I'm appealing to the retired people, old people like me. You know, don't sit doing nothing. You know, share your experience with the community, but focus on it. If you're a doctor, have your own clinic for people to benefit from it. If you are a businessman, if you are an accountant, if you are a banker, then instead of going around Islamic centers and so on, leave it for the young generation. You will, inshallah, do a better job. But let us apply our experience where we think we have a good experience in it.
Dr. Yahya, I was going to wait towards the end, but we have some pertinent questions here that audience members have asked. One question from my brother Jahid. He asks, I assume you don't sell your loans to other financial institutions like other banks.
No.
What do you do when you run out of money is the question.
But that's why we have the bank. That's why we have the bank. We pioneered Islamic mortgages in America in 1987. Actually, the first paper presented at Harvard, the paper by Brother Tag and I on Islamic financing and the market. Actually, we engaged the market, and it's essentially what we expected it to be. People did not believe me, but alhamdulillah, you know, what happened has happened. So in 1999, Freddie Mac contacted us. A very dear brother. We never met him. We never known him from Bangladesh. He called and he said, I heard about what you're doing and we want to know what you do. Maybe we can help you. So we explained to him. He said, okay. They approved $1 million line of credit. I said, we don't take money with line of credit because it would be preposterous. It would be hypocritical to take $1 million with interest and turn around and tell the community, oh, it is interest-free or riba-free. So we said, well, so what should we do? So we devised a business model, which is now used by all providers in that domain. And that is, we actually look at Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae as an investor. They invest with us. So when Brother Jawad comes and says, I want to buy a home, then we go to these two investors and other investors. So we have this customer with this credit rating, with this income, and he's buying a home or she's buying a home, and we think it's a good potential. So they say, well, we approve. And we do it on a case-by-case basis. They approve. And by the way, when we did the audit for the first time, the first task that we asked for, the scope of the audit, we said, please make sure that you go through all the paperwork that we have to make sure there is no buy and sell transaction between us and these investors. And they have recorded that in fact, and they check on it every year to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, some people go out and do the thing, and then after you have the baby, you give it to somebody else to nurture it, which is called servicing. In other words, after you do your financing, then you send it to U.S. Bank, right, or to another bank. Well, what is the point? I mean, where is your ear? You don't say my ear is here. Your ear is here. So so what is the point? You need all of this stuff, and then you end up selling to a riba bank to do the servicing. We had the baby, we take care of the baby. That's why we do not sell the servicing. When you have a problem, you call the chief financial officer, you call me, you call your finance credit officer, you call the president. We know you and you know us, and that is our philosophy.
Dr. Yahya, there is a question. And if you said yes, we're going to charge you 10% finding fees. Are you open for investors in the bank?
We are open for investors in the bank, of course.
Okay, that's a question from Brother Osman. Osman, there is another question from a young man, a businessman from Egypt, of a Yemeni background, Nadil Salah. You want to ask, Nadil?
Yes, actually, Dr. Yahya, how are you doing?
Assalamu alaikum, Nabil.
Walaikum salam. Just a quick question regarding mortgages and car payments. I've always been confused about the difference between the Islamic process and the interest process. Usually, when you skip a payment with the other ones, they charge you extra interest or charge extra payment. How does it happen on the Islamic side, on mortgage or on the car payment?
We do not.
Does the period increase or
we do not. We only do it if the customer is abusing it. You understand what I mean? Abusing it means that they are late every month, right? Because we forgave him the first month and the second month because he had an excuse. Now, if there is an income that's coming from this, we put it in the Miskin Fund. I don't know if you were listening when I was talking about the Miskin Fund, but this is a fund which is specific for the use to help people that are troubled with paying the mortgages. And that's
yeah, that part I understood. But what I was saying, for example, let's say my monthly payment is $300 a month and I skip a month. I wasn't able to pay a month. Now, does the next month I have to pay 600 or do I continue paying 300 and then one month is at the end?
No, if you skip the month because you lost your job, you had a problem, we'll give you your $300 and we'll ask you, how would you like to pay it back? You will say, I can pay $50 a month, no problem. And interest-free, no increase whatsoever.
Okay, and there's usually, within the contract, there's usually a grace period of...
We cannot put that in the contract. The problem, if you cannot put that in the contract, then it does not continue to be a standardized mortgage contract. See, the mortgage business in the United States is so standardized that it has to be a standard way of looking at it, regardless of what you call it, but it is a standard contract, and then a standard contract stands in the course of law and so on, because they want this to be an easy thing to do. But it is known, we have practiced this for 34 years by the grace of Allah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, thank you, doctor.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Dr. Yahya, there was another question from Brother Jahid, and he asked, homes appreciate in value. How do you invest in items that depreciate in value, such as cars?
That depreciate in value or appreciate in value?
Homes appreciate in value. How do you invest in things that depreciate, such as cars?
Such as houses?
Cars that depreciate in value.
Oh,
For a
cars?
loan for that.
Oh, no, like I say, we buy the property together. This is by al-istithna, the sale with the exception of usufruct. We buy it together, and then the customer buys our share. Suppose a car is selling, he bought a car for $10,000, and he puts a down payment of $2,000, which is 20%. That means he owns 20 shares, and we own 80 shares. But he says, but I want to own the car. I don't want to be in my life. I say, no problem. We'll sell you our 80 shares. I say, how can I pay for the 80? I don't have the money. We say, well, you'll pay it back to us over a period of, say, 5 years, right? So much per month. And because we still own the usufruct or the utility of the property or the rental of the car, then we share it, and it's in a declining way. And then at the end, it becomes, 100% income to you. So, but the title at the beginning transfers to you right away.
Dr. Yahya, can you elaborate more? How can people invest in your bank, and what's the figure?
We have a number of investments. First of all, certificate of deposit. Our return on the certificate of deposit, which is a 1-year certificate of deposit, because here's a challenge we met when we did riba-free certificate of deposit. The challenge is the government wants you to disclose how much is that rate, to stick by it. So the longest period that we can project accurately what the return on our investment in the portfolio is 1 year. We cannot go 3 years, we cannot go 4 years, we cannot go 5 years, because that will be very difficult. So the maximum we have is a 1-year CD, and we give that return. And some cases we give more than that return, but we are disclosing it by the government. So there is a return on investment of CD of 0.86%, 0.85%, and that's the highest in the market, by the way. And a lot of customers come and they open up. Why we distribute it? Because we distribute it according to what the law, the jurisprudence says. And we think it is unconscious to penalize the retired people who are living on the income from certificate deposits and giving it 0.1% and 0.2%. Our return is 0.85%. That's the first form of investment. The second form of investment is 401k plan and IRA. You can actually invest it in a riba-free portfolio. Where does the money come from? Where does the profit come from? Well, the profit comes from financing cars, financing homes and refinancing homes, financing Islamic centers, financing schools. We financed some of the largest schools in the country by the grace of Allah, by financing businesses, doctors' clinics, and on and on and on. So that is income, which is halal income. What we do, we pay the overhead, and then we distribute the profit between the depositors and the shareholders, short-term depositors and the shareholders.
Thanks, Dr. Yahya. We have
And then,
Blake.
the last thing is you buy shares in the bank. That's the last thing, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to.
Dr. Yahya, Blake is our asset manager for our small endowment. And Blake, this is an opportunity to see how can we engage Lariba and Bank of Wither, in our community for investments.
Okay. I was going to ask a follow-up question about, so what are as you just described some of these additional things that La Riba is involved in, what barriers remain that you've seen for the Muslim community from a financial perspective, and how has Islamic finance and the work that you've done adapted to meet those needs and expectations?
You mean riba free, right? RF, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, let's
Yep.
use RF because we want to make it stick, inshallah. But there are many things. If you ask me what is your biggest bottleneck, it is not money. It is qualified human resources, men and women who have the passion and the oomph to serve people. And our staff, we tried bankers, been in banking for 40 years, 20 years, 30 years. You hear that all the time, right? Well, so we decided that the best bankers that we can have are young men and women who just graduated from college with a business degree or accounting degree. And we'll bring them in and we train them. And they're like a sponge in 1 year's time, 6 month time in many cases. Why? Because we ask for a grade point average of 3.5 minimum. And they do a fantastic job. So it is human resources, where to find these qualified men and women. But the second thing is financing. And so far, we get to have a hard time with negotiating financing because they compare us to the big banks. And of course, there's no comparison between a small bank to a big bank. And by the grace of Allah, our assets have increased from last year to this year from $58 million to $150 million by the grace of Allah. And inshallah, it will be good. But these are some challenges. The other challenges are, unfortunately, from people who keep trying to promote their business by saying, I'm more Islamic than these people are. Things like, I'm sure you have been, being in MAT, I'm sure some centers, they say they are more Islamic than MAT is, right? Wajdi. Is Wajdi listening?
Yeah, I'm listening, Doctor. Yeah.
So these are challenging, but these will go away with time, with persistence. You just keep the course of work, inshallah. But like I say, Blake, the biggest gift in Ramadan that we got was Bank of America out of the blues. Wallahi, out of the blues. They called me on the phone and they say, you are Bank of America. I did not believe them. As a matter of fact, I had to check the man's name and the background. So I thought it's a fraud, But at the end, he said, we appreciate it. That shows that you are very careful. And they bought 4.9% of the bank because that's the maximum they can buy. I'm sure you know the regulations. You're in compliance, right? You cannot buy more than 4.9%. Otherwise, they become the control person. And they didn't want to control the bank with you. Alhamdulillah. Well, in our discussions with them, in our discussion with them, I remember, we told them that we are not looking for a handout. We don't want a handout. And we told them that we want to share with you our discipline. Maybe Bank of America will implement it. Who knows? Maybe we will be able to do something, inshallah. Who knows?
Yeah, is there plans for? Do you know what their interest was specifically in?
Oh, they are interested in supporting what we call minority depository institutions, because we are a minority depository institution. We specialize in helping first generation immigrant communities from different parts of especially Asia and so on and so forth. So they saw our financial statement, they saw our growth, they saw the quality of our actually OCC report, which is, mashallah, very colorful by the grace of Allah. So, alhamdulillah.
Dr. Yahya, we have a great brother, Romo Oregonian Burhano. He has a question for you. Burhano? Please.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Thanks,
salam.
Brother Burhanu. You are from
Yeah.
Africa?
Yeah, I am from Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, mashallah. You know how many Ethiopians we have in our staff?
I don't know.
We have 6 Ethiopians, mashallah. We have 2
Allah.
Christian Ethiopians and 4 Muslim Ethiopians.
Allah bless them.
And I've been to a beautiful country. I've been to Ethiopia about 8 years ago. Went to Addis, Dir Dawa, Bahdar, and also Harar. Where are you from in Ethiopia?
I am from Sidamo province, which is Borana.
Oh,
The population of Borana, which is in between in the side of the border of Kenya, Somalia. We are flown around from Nagelle down to the end.
Yes.
So my question is that for somebody who has already owned the house and is struggling with the high rate of interest, what are you guys gonna do for people like that?
We can refinance. And here is our discipline of refinancing. When we refinance, if it makes economic sense for you, we tell you refinance. If it doesn't make economic sense, we tell you do not do it. It is not good for you. Because this is the foundation of riba-free financing, the ethical value of it. So the spirit of it is not the mechanics and paperwork and all this stuff like some people do.
So where do you?
Just let me know. You can go to the website www.lariba.com or www.bankofwhittier.com, and you will see apply for home financing and refinancing. Fill in the information online, submit it, and send me an email. I will personally go and dig it out from the central files and give it to a capable finance officer. Be delighted to help Burhanu.
Shukran.
Sure.
And Burhan, if you need help, I'll be happy to connect you with Dr. Yahya and President Mike Abdul-Ati as well.
Okay, thank you. You are always do. I will come to you and discuss with you.
Wajdi is our boss. Wallah Azim.
Allah yakrimak, inshallah, Doctor. Jawad, there are questions, and
Yes, Dr. Yahya, there's another question that asks, and this is speaking about or referring to the certificates of deposits that you mentioned. The question asks, is this a regular bank that you can open an account such as a saving or checking account?
You can open a checking account, you can open a savings account, you can open a certificate deposit account, an IRA account, a 401k plan account, or riba free, and you have the app. You can sign a check, take a picture, and send it to us. No problem. Yeah, our online banking is the same as some of the biggest banks in the country, because we are served by a company called Fiserv, and so we have a very sophisticated, up to date online banking and app.
Okay, I don't think there were other questions in the chat as of right now. I do see my brother Richard Woodling here has been made apparent. I'm not sure if he had a question or not, but I always like hearing from him.
Oh, Dr. Yahya, thank you, Jawad. It's an honor to see you. I have your book. It's in front of me. I can say I haven't read it all, but you've made me want to go back and study the things that you've said. I was wondering, perhaps if you're ever in our town, I'd love for you to sign the book because I've learned a great deal.
I will. And I must say that I always meet those wise men and women who are very quiet, and they don't talk until we ask them, like Blake and Rashad and others. So,
well, that's very kind of you, Dr. Yahya. If Wajdi will tell you, I'm not a quiet person.
No, I will second that. Richard is not, but in a good way.
Next time, Jawad, we need to give some more lead time so people can participate, inshallah.
Inshallah, we will do that.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you.
Yahya.
Nice meeting you, Richard. Thank you for buying the book, and inshallah, I will sign it.
Dr. Yahya,
Thank you so much.
Brother Richard Whittling is an architect, and we are
Mashallah.
working in the low-income housing for some of our
Oh, wow.
immigrant and refugees. And I think maybe Brother Richard, you want to elaborate more on this?
Well, we're at the very beginning, as you know. We've met with the Rohingya community here in Portland, families that are in our need. Of course, there are organizations here in Portland that take care of refugees for the very first few months, but we are looking at the possibility of creating housing that they can actually afford, they can buy, they have money to put down. And it may be something that we will formulate some questions in the future for you and how you might advise us on the best way. Our Senator Merkley, we have 2 senators here in Oregon, and he has visited Myanmar, and it's a personal, his experiences, I think, are very moving. So we're hoping to gather some momentum here as we've gone from this very difficult time pandemic. Brother Wajdi and Jawad Jahed, all of these people are very busy just keeping the Met going. So it slowed us down, but I think we're going to be picking up some speed. Do you have any recommendations or any suggestions as we go into
Just
this
let me know.
kind of a project?
Richard, let me know what is needed, and we can take it from there. How much would the house cost? Low income, low housing, low cost housing.
Well, that's almost like how long is a piece of string? Depends on how big the families are, how many bedrooms,
No,
etc.
I mean, you know, is it going to be built like a hybrid habitat for humanity, or just?
Yes, our thoughts are that they would participate like Habitat for Humanity. We want them to be involved in the process.
Would love to. I mean,
yeah, we understand that they
let us
have
see
money.
what can be done.
Yeah.
Let us do one home. My suggestion to you is start from the possible to achieve the impossible.
That's true.
Remember when I was talking about it?
Very wise.
Let's do one house and see the building pains of one house with involvement of this and that, so on and so forth. And then we can go out, and I will do the best I can. We will do the best I can. We can at Lariba and the bank to assist, inshallah.
Well, what your advice parallels our initial thought of trying to start small, do it correctly, find the ways to do it right before we move on to bigger projects. Correct.
Yeah, and you know something, people who come from Rohingya, because we have a lot of Vietnamese in our neck of the woods here that we help also, and they, you know, a 2-bedroom house would be a palace for them.
Yes.
2-bedroom house would be a palace for them, with 1 or 2 bathrooms and a small little backyard and front yard. It's a palace. Then their kids become qualified. I have a family that lived in a mobile home, Vietnamese, and their daughter became very distinguished in college. Actually, she's working now in the bank and very successful, very good position, very good income. Now they live in a bigger home and so on and so forth. Remember, these are for startups, not forever.
Yes.
And believe me, people who lived on boats or lived in the barren areas with no cover, they will appreciate a small little house they call their own.
Well, we are trying to provide not only the house, but an environment where healthy, safe environment, but one that they can be visible in our community to make our community a more diverse, loving community. So we're not trying to tuck them away. So we're trying to find a location in, close in, where they can really be part of the fabric of our community. So there's a little bit of a go. We still have to try to locate that first, but your offer is, I'm sure it's music to all of our ears. Thank you.
We're trying to model the Ansar co-op housing in Toronto and St. Louis, and the idea is not only the immigrant and refugees, but also the low-income teachers that we have in our public and private schools that are struggling, with the American dream. And I think this is why we initiated this discussion with you today, and then to elaborate more, and we'll share the concept of this co-op housing that we want to do. And we have a support of the city and also some of our leaders, political leaders in our city. And I think it would be nice to have a private meeting with you and to go into more details.
Anytime.
I see Suleiman Koma, raise his hand. Suleiman, go ahead, brother.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, doctor.
Alaikum salam.
My question is, you probably already answered that question, but I wanted to know, like, can you go over again, like a 400,000 house, right? How do you determine the payment? Is it based on like credit score, the person revenue or salary?
Well,
You determine
you're
it?
asking how do you qualify
Right.
an applicant? The most important thing that we care about is not to dig a deep hole of debt that will become the wrath on your family and become a very sad thing in your family. You want to make sure that when you buy a house, we'll be able to make the payments, you'll live comfortably, and that it will be the house of dream and a house of happiness for you. So we add together all your monthly payments, your credit card payments, your student loan payments, and so on. We add those. And then we look at your income. And when we divide your monthly obligations, which includes, of course, the new house and the insurance on the house and the taxes on the house, and you divide it by your income, it should not be more than 36%.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Yahya, I had a question. There's a question, the question and answer session as well. What does your research show about second generation, maybe even third generation Muslims from immigrant families participating or using riba-free financing compared to immigrant families themselves? Is there an upward trend? Is there, what's the research say?
Oh, it's going up. They insist on riba-free financing. Yeah. It's very encouraging, very encouraging. I mean, it's amazing. Alhamdulillah.
There's a related question to that in the question answer asks, it'd be interesting to see if non-Muslims are participating in acquiring La Riba loans. Is there data on that?
We have non-Muslims participating, but we are trying to publicize it more. I remember I had a customer who closed the door and he asked me, Dr. Rahman, are you Christian? I smiled. I said, why are you asking? He said, because I go to church and this is exactly the description. Your people, they are behaving is exactly like our pastor is saying. I said, in fact, I am a believer in Abraham, a believer in Moses, a believer in Jesus, and I'm happy to be a Muslim, and I'm your brother. But that is what I mean by saying, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَأَجْسَامِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala digs deep into your heart, looks at your deeds, and your dealings with people. Yes, they are coming and they're amazed. And by the way, our staff has in it Muslims and Christians and Muslims from different schools of thoughts. Because Harvard did a study, I don't know, about 30 years ago. They found that when they put men together, then the quality of their dress and language declines. Put women together, the same thing. If you put men and women together working, the women started dressed up nicely and the men started watching for their language and dressed up nicely. So I borrowed this interesting research, and we found that when you put people with different faith together, then Muslims will respect others of other faith, and other faith will get to know the Muslims in action, and that will create peace and prosperity and good fortunes, inshallah.
Can I ask a question about sort of the current state of housing? Both you and all of us are on the West Coast, and there's been a sharp rise in housing prices. And you were just going through the calculator of how you determine who qualifies for
We are
home
not,
finance.
we have not crossed over yet, but we are close. We are close. It's okay still.
Wait.
The problem, I'll tell you, for instance, the Dallas-Fort Worth market, if the mortgage monthly payment is $1,000, the taxes and insurance is more than that, $1,500. And that's going to put a damper on the housing market.
And how for people who are struggling to be able to buy a house or need help with the knowledge about how to manage their finances, have you been involved in supporting people who want to buy a house in the future, who are
every day we every customer we talk to, and they say, oh, I got approved by this company and this company. I say, brother, we are not this company or that company or this bank or that bank. We are your brothers and sisters. We want to advise you, because buying a house is not just making the monthly payments. It's taking care of the drapes, taking care of the front yard and the backyard, taking care of plumbing, taking care of the heater leaking, and. So there are some other things. We do that all the time, and we train our staff to do the same.
Dr. Yahya, with
Yes.
your world of experience since immigrating to the United States in 1968 and starting La Riba in 1987, what do you think? And the answer could be social, it could be economic, it could be political, whatever you think. What are the biggest challenges facing the Muslim community in North America heading into the future here? What do you think? What do you see as the biggest challenge?
And I'm talking about the Islamists, people who are, some Muslims think to be a good Muslim, you have to be different, right? You have to look different, you have to talk differently, your contract has to be different, the writings have to be different, they have to have different foreign words. That makes you a good Muslim. That is the biggest challenge. If I can take this out of our minds, and being different is not a good thing. Understanding the culture around you, that is the best way. Then you can speak the language. That's why the Prophet ﷺ taught us, "Man ta'allama lughata qawmin amina sharrahum." Those who learn the language and the culture of a people, then you will be able to compete with them and to communicate with them and to influence them eventually. So people say, oh, it's the same. Well, if you live in America and there are people who are not Muslims, they also do good things. We need to appreciate them. We need to commend them for it. You understand what I'm saying? But that is the biggest challenge. That is to appreciate and respect the people that surround us, and always look at them as candidates to bring and say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You know, one of the challenges, Prophet ﷺ has a number of sayings, but here's the bottom line of it. Make a friend out of an enemy. Make a friend out of an enemy. That is the challenge of a Muslim. Do not classify people, oh, this guy is my enemy. This guy is my friend. Or this guy is really difficult. He is Islamophobic. Well, we need to engage with people, to communicate with them, to respect them. And if we learn how to do this, it's going to happen. It is not by going to law school, become lawyer. Now we have oversupply of lawyers in the Muslim community. They don't know what to do. By being a politician, oh, I want to be a politician. Well, politicians are not taught, they are made. And look at all the Muslims that are being elected to public service. It is done because of the qualification. And some people say that, oh, if you are not Muslim and you just speak language and you become a politician, you will be in. You know, you don't be in. You are in if you have a unique character with respect and appreciation of those surrounding you. Then people will respect your unique opinion. That is the challenge we have. And inshallah, it's happening. Wallahi, it's happening. and good things are on the way. Never feel down. I'm so optimistic about it. I wish I would be alive to see the wonderful thing that's going to happen to the Muslim community, inshallah.
Inshallah, doctor, you will be, inshallah, to see the future.
I
And
hope
you kind of answered the follow-up to that question that I had, was about the greatest opportunities the Muslim community has as far as growth. That could be social, economic as well. And I think you hinted at that a little bit in the answer, but
here is the biggest opportunity. Study. Do your best to be the best student in class, and your chance will come. And when it comes, capture it. Don't lose it. All right? Now, many of us think that the grass is greener on the other side. Just keep at what you're doing. Do not be a quitter. If you think that you will quit, think of the Prophet ﷺ and his example and how he suffered, how his people treated him. Stay the course. And anytime you have a setback in your business, we all have. Don't look at it as a curse. Look at it as an opportunity to learn. It's a gift from Allah to prepare you for a bigger thing. I know a brother, a very dear friend, and this man was hit with a lot of difficult things. And every time we went to visit him to pay our respect and condolences for what happened, he laughs. He said, what are you talking about? We say, well, we're sorry that this happened. He said, no. Once he was really sick, going to die. And he said, no, this is a forced vacation from God unto me, because he's preparing me for a bigger thing. Wallahi, Jihad, 3 times happened to him, and every time he got a bigger position in a bigger responsibility by the grace of Allah. So, man tafa'ala bil khayri wajada. Those who are optimistic about the future, the Prophet says, indeed, they will find a better future, inshallah.
inshallah. I did have another question that was in the question and answers, doctor. The question asked, many times the main obstacle to buying a home is coming up with a down payment.
Yes.
For live riba free, do we have to have a down payment? How is that calculated?
The down payment can be as low as 3%. As a matter of fact, there is a program called the Home Ready program, and it allows you to go 3%, and the fees are reduced, and it's a very good program. Those who are interested, let me know if you qualify or not. But the most important thing is, do not just buy a house because you want to own a house. Make sure that you can afford it. I do not want you to lose your family because you want to own a house, and then God knows what happens. God protect all of us from that.
And the ethical and moral spirit of riba-free banking, as you mentioned, Doctor. Blake or Brother Wesley, did you have any further questions?
I want just to reflect that Allah knows how much I enjoy being with Dr. Yahya. He has been part of my life for over 30 years. And I'm a humble student for Dr. Yahya.
I am a humble student for you, Yahashi.
And we lost a great scholar that, a great mentor. May Allah bless him and reward him, Dr. Maulana Wahid al-Din Khan. May Allah bless him, inshallah. And Dr. Yahya, Allah knows how much we love you, and all the sisters and the brothers give their salam to you. And we miss you in Portland, Oregon, but we hope to see you soon.
To everybody, wallahi. And inshallah, we'll see you soon, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. And we see your great achievements and great sacrifices in bearing the fruits that we are seeking. May Allah accept it for His sake, inshallah.
Before we, inshallah. Before we close today, it is the month of Ramadan, and the Muslim Educational Trust is in the middle of raising funds to support our programs. As everybody knows, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected institutions everywhere across the world, and we're no different. A lot of the programs that we had in our building, the basketball, the swimming, the classes, the rentals, the wedding parties, the weddings, the walimas, they've all had been canceled. because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've had to shift a lot of our programming online, virtual, as we've had the honor today of hosting Dr. Yahya. But with this comes a price tag that we need to fund our institutions. And towards the beginning of your presentation, Dr. Yahya, you mentioned about Muslim organizations supporting Muslim organizations, Muslims supporting Muslims in creating this wealth and strength within our own communities. And we've done a lot of different things over the past year. And you can view our year-end report, the things that happened over the last 12 months. We're proud to say that we are one of the few organizations, Muslim organizations in the United States, that hosted a COVID-19 clinic. We had 2 clinics here in March. Alhamdulillah, we were able to partner with the counties and government here in Oregon to do that. We've also became the first Muslim organization to host an SAP test here at the Muslim Educational Trust. And we did that this past December. We've been hosting anti-Islamophobia workshops. We've been hosting other workshops related to Islam and letting people understand the true beauty of this faith. But all of this happens because of supporters like you. If you look in the chat, we have our link to our fundraiser. Please support us. These programs, the things that we bring, the COVID vaccination center, the SAT, the Islamophobia workshops, none of those things can happen without your donations. So please donate generously, keep these events alive. Let us have strength in the MET and the program that we have and continue our mission. And most of all, to allow this Muslim Ummah to continue to grow stronger with each generation. Dr. Yahya and his organization is founding.
Just want to add, and I always publish in my Facebook and my communications, the #1 priority for donations this Ramadan should be to the Islamic centers and to the schools. These are the anchors of our community. Other activities, fantastic, wonderful. God bless them for what they do. But without the Islamic center, without the school, these other activities will not exist. So the #1 priority, please make it to the Islamic center and to the school. And Allah bless you and reward you and give you more, inshallah, this month of Ramadan. You have a wonderful organization, wallahi, one of the unique organizations in the United States.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yahya. Thank you to our participants
Thank you
who joined in today, and to Blake for co-hosting here with me. And of course, to you, Dr. Yahya, for taking time out of this Ramadan Saturday to join us and spread knowledge about the unique opportunities that we now have as Muslims because people gave their life's work to making this happen. And please continue to support us here at MET as well.
Remember us in your prayers. May Allah bless you and reward you, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr.
Ameen.
Yahya, and thank you, Jawad and Wajdi and MET. It's always a pleasure to help out with your program.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful
Thank
asset
you.
to the
Thank
community.
you, Blake. Good to see you again. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
Richard, I haven't seen his picture, but he's probably shying away. And Rashad and Wajdi, and good to see you all. And may Allah bless you. And I hope Wajdi will be a grandfather soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
You
Right.
look like the one, so what's the only thing missing is that you
Thanks,
Thank-
Dr. Yahya. Keep us in your dua, please, and your prayers,
Inshallah.
as we do.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yahya.
Remember us in your
Thanks,
dua.
Blake, and thanks, Jawad, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.